Well, I'm going to start my story prior to the beginning. Pre-pandemic, commuting was a normal way of life for people. But in the 1980s, my commute was usually on a helicopter from Aberdeen Airport out offshore to the North Sea. You put a survival suit on, you had a noisy flight away to a production platform, a drill rig, or a diving support vessel. Once on board, you had a safety briefing, and then you joined your team and you went on shift for whatever length of trip you had.
So back then, my job was a diver. At first, shallow diving and then deep diving. You see a schematic of a dive system where you live in chambers and you go to the water in a pressurised bell. When you're at depth, you can open the bottom door, the diver is dressed in, breathing through the umbilical and getting hot water. You can go into the water, do whatever tasks are involved, and then back to the chambers where you shower, have some food, sleep, and repeat.
You had a diving medical on an annual basis to check that you were okay. And in 1990, my medical revealed that I had a blood abnormality. Further investigation revealed non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Now, that was a huge impact. What would it be for my career? My medical was rescinded. Would I have to change my career? Could we have a family? Was it hereditary? How would it affect our finances? What did the future hold? And what was my long and short-term prognosis? So these were huge questions running around in our minds at that stage, and they are natural from the prospect of anyone's diagnosis.
This picture was taken the day I came home after my stem cell transplant in 1998. And Orla, our daughter, was on duty to look after me. We had two children by then, Owen and Orla, naturally conceived, thankfully. My non-Hodgkin's lymphoma initial diagnosis was reclassified as CLL early on in the 90s. So for the kids, Dad's cancer was the norm, as normal as things like that can be. We tried to have a normal life for them. We naturally celebrated birthdays, family occasions. We did things with the kids, and we tried to make memories, because who knows what was in store for me. We had some special memories. The Sydney Bridge climb with Owen when he was 12 was definitely a standout moment. But we made memories just doing everyday things and special things with the kids. Over the years, since my initial diagnosis, I've had lots of treatments. The list here shows the variety of treatments I've had up to 2014. Effectively, I seem to go in cycles which were 2.5 to 4.5 years, where I would be in remission. The longest remission was after my stem cell transplant. We also have a picture here of the 20th anniversary cake we had made in 2010 to celebrate what was a pretty significant milestone. The team is shown. Audrey and Dominic are the consultants. Joan, the ward sister. Jeff was the CNS, excellent character. Sarah, the pharmacist. The nurses, the phlebotomists. And of course, very important person, Janice, the receptionist.
It was a huge team effort. At times it was humbling. The fact that I was treated so much as an individual when obviously the waiting rooms were bursting at their seams.
It was a humbling experience on many occasions. But what great treatment I had from the NHS. One of my passions is rugby, and I'm a Munster and Ireland fan. So this is a picture of me getting on a chopper before the European Cup final in 2008.
And I had an opportunity to buy a brick in a Munster fan walkway at the redevelopment of Thomond Park in 2007. It was Owen's birthday. He was 16. And like all teenagers, it was an uneasy time for him. He was keen to fly the nest, and I was conscious of the fragility of my mortality. So I wanted to leave something, potentially leave something for him. So I chose this. It sounds silly, follow me, I'm right behind you, but there's logic to it. The follow me bit is where I'm trying to set out some standards, some behaviors, so that I can lead him. The I'm right behind you bit is whatever path he chooses, whatever decisions he makes, we will support him. It's a bit of a family joke, to be honest with you, but once or twice in the subsequent years, he's actually referred to it, and there's always a wry smile on his face.
In the winter of 2013-2014, I had a severe hemolysis. My hemoglobin was way down in my boots. I needed regular blood transfusions. I think somewhere between 24 and 26 in a 4 or 5 week period. Things weren't good. Owen was in university in Edinburgh, and he rang one evening to see how I was. And then he asked if there was anything he could do. Told him there was very little really, but he might think of giving blood. So he did. In fact, he organised the Students' Union to run a campaign, and they had 150 donations. That campaign has run annually since, amassing some 2,000 donations. So if you don't call that support, I don't know what is. It was immensely gratifying. After that, I was on high dosage steroids, and I couldn't sit still. I needed to be active, so as it was good weather, I went out and built a deck in the garden. It kept me busy, and it was useful afterwards. And of course, we had the excuse of having friends around for the official opening. Later that year, I started with ibrutinib, and I really haven't looked back. We continued to celebrate family events, Orla's prom, and a family holiday to Dubai in 2017.
There you go. We have 4 organisations, 2 local, 2 national, that have helped me. The Anchor, Friends of Anchor, stands for Aberdeen Northern Centre for Haematology, Oncology and Radiology. That is a friends group which offers holistic care, funds equipment, and it also funds research and is local to the Grampian Health region. A fantastic group of people. CLAN, Cancer Link Aberdeen and North, is also a local-based group which offers holistic care but in a different setting. And Orla went there as a teenager. They organised outdoor activities on a monthly basis with other kids whose parents had a cancer of some description. It allowed the kids to be able to talk about their feelings in a non-clinical setting. Macmillan, I did the Move More course in 2015, and it really gave me the confidence within the capability I had at the time to get back into exercise. Maggie's is a haven within the hospital campus in Aberdeen. It's a place you can go just to sit and close your eyes if you want to, or chat or have a cuppa. We have a monthly haematology group, and that's really beneficial. So I've often wanted to do some fundraising, and I had the opportunity when a ring walk was being organised to do some significant fundraising whilst I was still working. So you had a briefing, and then you were strapped into that contraption on the top wing, and you took off. Suffice to say, the adrenaline rush was amazing, and we managed to raise a significant amount of funds. So let's get back down to earth with the more normal mode of transport, cycling. After the Macmillan Move More course, I managed to get back on my bike, which had gathered dust in the garage for 2 years. Very slow start, and built up to, 2, 3, 5, 10 miles, and then seem to take an age to get further than that. I'm not competitive. I just enjoy getting out and about. The roads here in rural Aberdeenshire are quiet, and the scenery is pretty fantastic because we're on the edge of the Highlands. I do enjoy stopping for a coffee, and I'm certainly not a born-again fitness freak. In fact, one time post-treatment, I was asked what I was going to do today, and I said, today I'm actually going to do nothing, but more importantly, I'm going to take all day to do it.
I've had the opportunity to take part in organised closed road events and the opportunity to raise some funds. We were going on holidays to the continent in 2019, and I dreamt up this Six Nations challenge. There were a couple of epic routes in the Alps at a very, very slow pace, but a huge sense of achievement. I've got a few bikes, and my latest is a rickshaw. Well, it's not mine. It's part of the Cycling Without Age initiative. It brings local care home residents out and around the village on a battery-assisted rickshaw.
What if is a natural question that you will ask upon discovery of your diagnosis? I certainly asked it. In my working life, what if scenarios, risk mitigation was part and parcel of daily life? And I applied some of that to my diagnosis. You have to understand about your treatments. You have to understand about the impact of your treatments. But at times, I actually found that I went too far. I was overthinking it. The early stages, I didn't have the internet, so I didn't have the confusion of the internet. And as the internet improved, I then was able to use reliable sources of information. I often use the TV remote as an analogy for the lack of control that you experience upon learning of your diagnosis. It's as if you're in a room watching TV with a bunch of people and they have the remote. They're pressing the buttons. They're making the decisions for you. That lack of control, which a lot of people have now experienced in the pandemic, was something that was really second nature to us CLLers.
I also use a roller coaster as the analogy for my journey. It works better for me than a journey. And clearly it's a virtual reality roller coaster because it's a roller coaster without end. It wasn't my choice to get on board. I've got a front seat though. I'm not in control. There are highs, there are lows, there are periods of calm. But my family are also on board and we can't get off. So in that sense, the roller coaster analogy works better for me than the journey.
Support is essential, and I really appreciate the support I've got. Support is very different to sympathy. Support is a practical act. Here is a little clip of a film whereby a bird has flown into a window and landed on a side table, unconscious, possibly dead. Its mate comes along and tries to revive it. It succeeds. The bird is probably seeing stars and not quite sure where it is, but his pal keeps going. It's tenacious. The support is unswerving. It's really a nice thing to see. And as we all like a happy ending, manages to get to the stage where both of them fly away. At the start of the pandemic, I was very scared. We didn't have a vaccine. There was an awful lot of unknowns. The whole atmosphere was tense. We're better informed now, often as a result of these webinars, and we do have a vaccine, and hopefully it works for us. I watched President Biden's inauguration, and when Amanda Gorman came on, she just stole the show.
When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? For there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it.
So the obvious omission in the slide where we saw the 4 organizations was CLL Support. and let's leave the good wine to last. I found out about CLL Support in 2015, 2016. I attended a conference in Glasgow, and I found it an excellent resource. It was dedicated to CLL, obviously, reliable information, which I think is key. It's the patient voice of the CLL Forum. It administers Health Unlocked, which is a very good source of support and information and camaraderie. The conferences that CLL Support organises are brilliant, especially the roundtable discussions and the opportunity to meet folk. Throughout all my roller coaster, my wife, Vera, has been by my side my biggest asset. She's a wife, a mum, a nurse. She's also my technical advisor, but probably more importantly, my soulmate. There have been advances in treatments, and from 2014, I went on ibrutinib, and I was on ibrutinib for 6.5 years. Prior to that, my prognosis was very poor. However, in May last year, I transitioned onto venetoclax. Not the ideal timing in a pandemic, but thankfully it was reasonably smooth, and again, the advances in medical science meant that I had an option. So after 30 years of treatment, I'm here. We've had a family, which I'm really grateful for. And it's just amazing to think that when I was diagnosed in 1990, that I would be able to live well with CLL. Thanks for listening.